Ever since the advent of T20 franchise leagues around the world, there have been many who have considered that a time may come when these leagues have more importance potentially than international bilateral tournaments. And while that reality might still be some ways away, it might also be a little closer than you might just think. Why do I say that, you ask? Well, the recent cancellation of the South Africa and Australia ODIs that are set to be happening in the beginning of next year is indeed a sign that we are reaching a time where cricket boards will more often than not put emphasis on their T20 leagues over bilateral cricket. The reason for this cancellation, as mentioned, was the fact that the Cricket South Africa have a new T20 league which they are launching, and for them it is imperative that their players are available for that tournament. But are we soon reaching a point now where other boards as well will give focus to their T20 leagues? Such is the revenue that is generated from them. Well, hello and welcome to this latest video from Sports Today. My name is Shane Reyes, and today we are going to discuss and debate the future of bilateral cricket, especially in certain formats. For starters, let's take a look at what the exact issue at hand is. South Africa will be touring Australia at the end of this year, and there was also supposed to be an ODI series that was played after the Test match series was held. However, Cricket South Africa requested Cricket Australia to actually try and reschedule those ODIs, as it were, because for them, they'll be launching a new T20 league in January of 2023, and they want all of their best players to be available for the tournament that they believe is what will determine the success rate or the failure of that T20 league. Now, Australia said that we have a very packed schedule and it would be impossible to actually find space to have these ODIs take place. So South Africa went through the radical step of actually forfeiting that ODI series, and this forfeiture is important. Why exactly that is, we're going to come to that in a bit. But in a statement, they announced that the focus for them, at least right now, would be the T20 league. In fact, they said that as difficult as this decision has been for the CSA, the long-term sustainability of our new T20 league is reliant on having all our domestic players available for this exciting new addition to the CSA calendar. Now, of course, we note for a fact that in today's day and age, having a domestic T20 league is very, very important for boards to generate finances. Remember, this Cricket South Africa have had a failed T20 league take place in the past as well. And this is a whole new league that they're launching. And they believe that the best way to determine the success of that particular league will be if they have all of their best local players available for this. Incidentally and very ironically, rather than Australia actually being too fussed about this, they are not that entirely bothered by the fact that these ODIs have been cancelled. Why? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at now. So, as I was talking about before, the first thing that has to be noted is that the Australian cricket team have a very packed 2023. Now again, that's not news. If you've been a follower of cricket for a long time, you know for a fact that the so-called big three, India, Australia and England, more often than not always have packed schedules. But that packed schedule actually meant that they could find no space in their calendar to reschedule those 3 ODI matches, and as a result, South Africa chose to forfeit those, which means that the series by default, all the wins will end up going to Australia. But more importantly for Cricket Australia, this also means that their top players, the players who are regularly playing international cricket, will actually be available for the Big Bash League. Now, why this is important is because the Big Bash League, again, it's a league that is generally enjoyed by cricket watchers, but there are criticisms of it that are more often than not made. One of the key ones being that more often than not, international level Australian players aren't playing it because more often than not, they have international series commitments. This time around, that's not going to be a problem, and they are potentially going to be Australia, capped players who are regularly playing for the Australian cricket team will be turning out for their franchise sides, and that is something that will greatly benefit the fanfare as well as even the financials potentially of this particular league. It also has an impact in terms of the domestic partners of Cricket Australia, because the domestic television partners, there's been a bit of a dispute there, and in fact the channel is trying to even terminate the contract because they're not very happy with the way that the Big Bash League has been held. Of course, having international level renowned players who would potentially draw on audiences would be a bit of a sweetener in that regard. So, as I said, this is a deal where everybody potentially wins, but Australia more so than anyone. And if you're talking about just the money side of things, then both teams would actually be happy because, as I said, Cricket South Africa ensures that their best resources are available for a new league, which could be a money spinner potentially. The Australian board is happy because their big stars are available for the Big Bash League. But what about the international series? Well, that is something that we're going to look into here. And believe me when I say that the ramifications here are actually quite big. The biggest ramification when it comes to South Africa's forfeiture of this particular ODI series is their qualification for the World Cup, the ODI World Cup that is set to be held next year. Remember, the new format ensures that there is something called a Super League for ODIs, wherein if you are ranked, there are 12 teams, and if you are ranked in the top 8, it is only then that you will be making it automatically to the next World Cup. Well, South Africa, as things stand, are currently in 11th place, which meant that those ODIs against Australia, which they forfeited, actually cost them the chance of climbing out of that 11th spot. Now, again, the rules for the World Super League in that sense are fairly simple. If you're in the top 8, you're automatically qualifying. But if you are the last 5 teams in that particular league, then you will be playing in the qualifiers with 5 associate nations. And from there, only 2 teams will be qualifying to the World Cup because the World Cups currently are only taking 10 teams. So South Africa have forfeited these points, and they have decided that, look, the financial health of the sport domestically as well as of the board is more important than those points, and they're backing their players to actually potentially make it through qualifiers, because again, it doesn't get that much easier for South Africa in ODIs in the coming year because they have series coming up against the likes of England and India, 2 very, very strong white ball teams. So there is no guarantee that even if they end up, just focusing on, as I said, the T20 league that is there's no guarantee that they are automatically qualifying for the World Cup because they are currently out of that top 8. So the simple fact is that as of now, for cricket boards, the main focus is making money through T20 franchise leagues because they believe that is something that will sustain them over the long term. Bilateral cricket, for years, many have been asking that you might just see a cut down in terms of the number of matches played. You may not have as many series. And that is in many ways what is happening now, because the focus right now for both teams is in fact the T20 leagues and not the international bilaterals. Again, Australia are the bigger winners in this case. Not only do they have their best players available for the BBL, but they'll also be getting the points because this is a forfeiture, so the points have been awarded to Australia, which means that they have strengthened their position and are all but certain that they will be going to the World Cup. The same cannot be said about South Africa, and we might just have a situation where South Africa could be playing the qualifiers and may even miss out on the 50-over World Cup, all because they chose to focus on the health of their new league. So what do you guys think? Do you think that in the future we'll be seeing more and more franchise league matches being taking place and given, they're given more preference? Or do you think that this is just something that's a bit of a blip and something that might not be repeated too often in the future? Do let us know in the comments. We love hearing your thoughts. That is it from me in this particular video. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please don't forget to like the video, share it with your friend. As I said before, drop us a comment. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Last but not the least, tap the bell icon so that you know every single time it is that we are going live or uploading a new video for your infotainment. As always, I've been Shane Reyes. I've been very grateful to be joined by you guys, and I hope to see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.